In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Transcend Bodycam 10. Rather obviously, it's a body-worn camera. It just clips onto the clothing and it's designed to be used by people in occupations such as a security guard or the doorman at a club, the kind of people that might need to have the ability to produce video evidence to demonstrate, for example, who threw the first punch. Now you can see this little red LED flashing here. That means it's recording at the moment, so I'll just cut to the video that this camera can see. And as you can see there, we've got quite a wide angle lens. We've also got the little time and date stamp at the bottom. But we'll just flip back to the other video now. Now the camera itself records in 1080p 30. It's got a 4-hour battery life. And it's also got little infrared LEDs around the lens here that enable it to record in complete darkness. But without any further ado, let's get on with the rest of the review. Let's wind things back a little bit and have a look at the box and its contents. You'll notice it's called the DrivePro Body 10, which gives away its heritage as a kind of offshoot of a dash cam. And of course, Transcend do make dash cams. Have a look on the right here, you'll see some of the specs there. It mentions water resistant amongst them. That's for rain. That's not for going underwater. I'd suggest if you're a security guard and you find yourself underwater, you might be a little bit out of your depth, if you know what I mean. Perhaps you need to have equipment a little bit more like this. Transcend are perhaps best known for their memory cards, and they include one of these inside the box. It's a 32GB UHS-1 card. On the back of the box you can see some specifications here, and notice towards the bottom it mentions you've got a 2-year warranty with this camera. We'll have a look what you get inside the box. Take the camera and memory card out first. On the second layer here we've got some promotional material, a USB lead for charging and data transfer, and a charger. It's a US one because I bought this from the US, but of course in the UK you get a UK charger. And then we've got the warranty information and instructions in the bottom there. Okay, let's just take a look around the operation of the camera. So to start recording, all you have to do is switch it on, and to switch it on you just hold down that big button in the middle there for a couple of seconds until the red light comes on, it beeps, and then immediately starts up recording. So obviously to stop it recording, you just have to power it down by holding the same button again for another couple of seconds. Now the smaller button is the snapshot or photo button, I suppose. And all that does is take a still frame out of the video and store it in a separate folder as a photo. It's the same 1920 by 1080 image that you get out of the video, but just a single frame stored as a JPEG. Now if you look towards the right hand side of the lens, you'll see a little hole. That's where the microphone is, and then the lens itself, as you can see, is surrounded by those 4 IR LEDs. There's one more LED and it's on the top of the camera. It's not lit at the moment, but it lights up when it's charging and it flashes when the battery is running low. On the back here we've got the clip which holds it to your clothing or a strap or whatever you want to put it around. It can be rotated 360 degrees. It's all made out of plastic and it's got these teeth in it which should grip it to whatever material you put it on. Now I just want to show you what happens when you put power in the camera whilst it's recording. So notice it's recording at the moment. So I'll open the bottom bit here, and that's where the micro SD card and the USB charging port or data transfer port is. I'm putting in a USB lead that's got a power connector at the other end plugged into the wall. So the camera's still recording, but if we look at the top now, we can see the LEDs lit, so it's also charging at the same time. So obviously you can therefore record and charge at the same time. So you can plug that into an external battery pack and power this thing for as long as you pretty much want. You'll notice that unplugging that power lead didn't interrupt the recording either. The camera is still recording and has to be switched off manually, so that's a good thing. Now, the bottom of the camera, as well as having the micro SD card slot and the USB port, it's got a reset hole on there, but I've never had to push that because the camera's never locked up on me. It's not given me any problems at all. Now, according to my scales, the weight is approximately 111 grams, which in ounces is 3.9. That's quite a weight. It's too heavy to put it on, say, a shirt pocket. It really needs to be put on something that's got a bit more support, like a jacket or a strap. Now I'm covering over the lens here so that the camera thinks it's gone dark and automatically switches on those IR LEDs. And as you can see, they've come on now. They are visible to the naked eye, just like they look here on camera. And if I switch off the lights, you can see how bright they are. They're quite noticeable. And of course, you've got that record indicator flashing as well. So don't think you can use this camera covertly, but it's not for that anyway. Just to summarize some of the information we've gone through so far. So you cannot switch off the record LED. You can cannot switch off the infrared LEDs coming on automatically when it goes dark. There's your video resolution that it records in, as well as the specs for the video. The battery life, it's supposed to be 3.5 hours according to the box, but mine recorded for 4 hours, so that's good. And of course you can record and charge at the same time if you use, say, USB battery pack. The camera records in 3-minute segments, so if you were to record for a full hour, you'd have 20 3-minute segments for that hour. And according to my calculations, that means a 32 gig card that it comes with in the box should hold approximately 5.3 hours worth of video. And you can also choose to loop over the oldest footage on the card if you want. There's a setting for that, and I'll show you that later on. Now let's have a look at some sample clips. The first thing I need to mention though, these were shot in November 15, as you can see from the timestamp at the bottom left. It's only now that I'm getting around to editing them together at the end of March 16, so apologies for the delay, but I've had a lot of stuff happening in the meantime. Now I'm looking at this mirror not to do my hair, because I don't know where it is, but I'm just showing you how the camera looks on the clothing there. It's quite conspicuous. However, I was able to walk around town without a single person looking at it, which was really quite odd. But I'll show you some footage here where I'm just stood still first of all, because there's a lot of this footage that's sort of shaky cam stuff, so I'm picking a few shots out here where I'm not doing any moving around, just to show you how good the quality is. It's actually quite nice and sharp. The sound quality is particularly good as well, and you'll see more of that later on. But you might have noticed there's something a little bit odd about some of the people, not just because they're from Manchester, but there's more than that. As I walk towards the end here, it should start to become apparent, if it hasn't already, the fact that everyone's in purple. And the reason that that's happening is because the camera doesn't have an IR filter on it. For those infrared LEDs to operate, the camera obviously can't have a filter that blocks them out. So without the IR filter on a camera, black colours and greys and things all look at kind of purples and pinks, which is what you're seeing now. So that's something you just have to put up with. You've got a camera that can record in the dark, but whilst it's daylight, everyone looks like they're wearing various shades of violet, purple, pink, those kind of colours. Now, a traditional night vision security camera gets around this issue by having an IR cut filter, and that's a physical device that clicks in front of the sensor during the daytime to block out the infrared light, which is what we're seeing here, but at night time it moves out of the way and lets the camera see in the dark. But presumably that's just too complicated a mechanism to fit in a compact camera like this. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how the camera copes in the dark, I've currently got it stuck to the door in my garage, and as you can see, it's facing me at the moment now. The infrared LEDs aren't on. I'll switch the light off in here. I've still got some little spotlights in here though, so even though it's a little bit darker than it was before, it's not completely dark. However, I'm going to now switch off the spotlights, and that'll then trigger those infrared LEDs to come on, so just give me a second. Right, so it's pitch black in here now, completely dark. I can't even see my hand in front of my face. But I can imagine you can probably see me, because I can tell around the lens there, those 4 infrared LEDs, those are all lit up, and they are visible to the naked eye as little red LEDs, so they're not completely invisible unlike some IR LEDs. One thing I have noticed with them though, they don't have a particularly wide spread. Whilst they might be illuminating me now, they don't tend to go very far out, so I'm sure if I stand to one side, even though I'm probably within the field of view of the lens, you probably can't see me, because I can see those IR LEDs. They get very dim when I get over here. They're only bright when I'm dead onto them, so as you can see, that's a bit of an issue. If you are wearing this camera in the dark, you want to film people in the dark, you'll notice that the IR LEDs really will only get a view of those people when they're straight onto the camera. Somebody could be just a couple of feet to the left and talking to you from this direction. Unless you're facing them directly, they're going to be in the dark. Now that isn't really too much of an issue unless you're trying to record in complete darkness. And I suppose any image that you can capture in complete darkness is better than none. When you've got some kind of street lights around or any kind of ambient lighting, you haven't really got a problem. I mean, at the moment here you can see it's recording in colour. It's quite a dark scene, but if I spin around to the right here, you'll notice it'll go to black and white in a second. There we go. And that's because there isn't enough light in that area, or it doesn't think there is, and it's switched on those IR LEDs. Whenever the IR LEDs are on, it goes black and white. You'll see it happening here as I'm walking up this ramp. It decides there, it looks like it's blinding those people, but they can't see that level of light. They only see LEDs lit if they were to look at the camera itself. But you can see as soon as they came on, the scene went into black and white. It looks quite arty, in fact. Now just look for something else. You'll see a little black frame. There we go, that was that. And that's what happens when you join two clips together without editing them. You can remove that in editing, but I'll show you more on that in a second. Now, as I go in towards the station here at Manchester, it's still in black and white, although it is quite bright now, so it takes a few seconds for it just to decide, hold on, it's bright, it's going to stay bright, we might as well go into colour mode now. So we're still in black and white for the moment. We'll just get past this guy that's nearly knocking me over because he's not looking where he's going. There we go. We've got into colour mode again, and everyone's back to wearing purple. So that just gives you an idea of how the camera switches between the different modes. Now, I mentioned there about the little black frame that we saw. If we just look at the bottom left of the timestamp, when it gets to 00, it gets to the full minute, you'll see a jump at that point. So just look at the counter as well as it does it. So it's 59, 0, back to 59 and then 0 again. So when you join two clips together, it jumps back about a half a second or so. You're not losing any footage, it's just what happens when you join two clips. You'll have a little bit of black at the end of each one. But you can edit that out, of course, in editing. In fact, I did that earlier on when I did that bit to camera in the garage. That was two clips joined together, but I edited out the gap. Now, remember that still button that I showed earlier on? Well, this is what one of those stills looks like, and as I described, it's just a single frame out of the video at 1920 by 1080 as a JPEG. You might as well just record video and then capture frames, I think, in editing rather than reaching up and pressing the button all the time. Doesn't really make too much sense. Now, the software. This is important. The software for this is only available for Windows, not for Mac. So if you want to change any of the settings on the camera, and you will because you want to change the time on it, for example, you've got to use Windows. So if you've got a Mac, do not buy this camera because it's not going to work for you. So I'm demonstrating this in Windows 10 now, and once you've installed the software, it only appears as this little icon in the taskbar, and that's how you get into the settings. So to change the settings for the software, you can have it automatically start up when the camera's connected. It can automatically save the photos and video off the camera into a folder of your choice, and you can have the camera sync its time and date with the computer. Now, as far as the settings go for the camera itself, the top one there, user stamp, lets you type information into a box and then save it, and that should appear on top of the video itself for identification purposes. But for whatever reason, that hasn't worked for me. It'll let me type in the box and save, but it just doesn't appear on the video. Loop recording will let you re-record over the memory card when it's full, so the oldest 3-minute segment gets deleted and replaced with the newest 3-minute segment. And of course, format card and firmware upgrader, self-explanatory. Right, it's time to wrap this one up because I've covered off everything that I wanted to say about this particular camera. If you like the look of this and you want to buy one for yourself, I've got some purchasing links in the video description. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching. Hold your horses right there. Where do you think you're going? Oh, I'm just here for the party. Well, I'm under strict instructions to only let people in who are on this list. What's your name? Yeah, just check. It should show us Matt from Techmoan. Well, all I can see on this list is a Matt from Techmoan. No, that should... It's a typo. It happens quite a bit. It should show as Techmoan. No, it definitely says Techmoan. So, if your name's not down, you're not coming in. On your way, sunshine.
No, still no sign of him. This is the best party ever.